Hannah Cronin.
Hi, I'm Ari Michael.
Hi, I'm Shelby Scott.
And those are my audience members for tonight. Alrighty. So my name is Madeline Trusty. 2 years ago, my parents moved to Seattle. It was probably the biggest move of my life. Growing up, I lived in Nashville, Tennessee, where I was born, and then we moved here to Missouri a few years later, so that's basically all I know. So moving to Seattle was quite a big move for me. We went from having a 4-bedroom house in the suburbs to living in a 2-bedroom apartment in suburbia. It was quite odd going from, suburbia life to city life. It was definitely something to get used to. There's a lot of more public transportation than there is obviously in suburbia. So taking transportation versus taking a car, you have to reroute yourself and do a lot more looking into street names and stuff like that, which is sort of interesting. So living in Seattle, most people say that it's rainy a lot of the times, which honestly it's not. During the winter is more of their rainy season. And then during the summers, it doesn't get higher than about 89. So their heat waves are around 80 degrees, which they start freaking out. While living in Missouri, when you reach 80 degrees, it's still nice and cool and breezy and everybody's so excited. And their winters normally don't get below about 40, 30 degrees, which is kind of nice. It's also a different humidity, so it's more wet, so it's not as sticky in the summer and really hot. What's really cool about Washington's terrain in general is that they have so many different locations. So they have the desert, which is the wine country, then they have the forest, which I love to go hiking in. That's been one of my favorite hobbies that I've come up with while living in Seattle. And then you also have the beaches and the mountains. What's really cool is that there's a beach about 15 minutes away from our apartment, and while you lay out catching the sun rays, trying to get a tan, you can look across the water or across the sailboats and see mountains with snow on the peaks, which I think is pretty cool, honestly. But another really cool thing about Seattle is the different museums and historical locations. They have, they're really known for their Native American culture there, which is really interesting. And in my town, in my neighborhood of Seattle is what we call it. Its name is Ballard, so I live in the Ballard neighborhood. Ballard was actually founded by the Norwegians. So we have a Norwegian museum in our town about 2 blocks from my apartment, and I've been there twice now, and it's really cool. It has the history of the Norwegians and how they came to live in Seattle area, and there's also a Norwegian parade every year during the summer. And about 5 or 6 years ago, the Norwegian president came, and that's been the biggest thing that ever happened in Ballard community, which is really cool to hear locals and natives talk about it in their culture. One way that my family really likes to find out about the different cultures, since there are so many diverse places in Washington and Seattle in general, is eating food. We find that by eating the food, you get to talk to people, and by talking to people, you know more about their lives, know more about how they grew up, their culture, their things that they do with their family, which is really cool. Also, living in Seattle is nice because you're a lot closer to the border. So I've been to Canada twice now. I've been to Vancouver, Canada, as well as Victoria Island, which is a small island off of Canada, and we were there this past summer for Canada Day, so it was really interesting to see another country's national holiday and how they celebrate it, a bit different from 4th of July here in America. There's a lot of different cool things that you can do in Seattle, and one of the cool things is that every neighborhood has a market every week at some point. In my neighborhood of Ballard, it's on Sundays from 10 to 3, and all these like local businessmen and businesswomen come out. Like I've met so many bee farmers, fruit farmers, butchers, candle makers, like anything that you can imagine. I've probably met them. They're really cool people. They're really nice. They're really nice to talk to, and you like learn more and more about Seattle every day. Seattle has now become my home. It's now what I call home. And once I graduate here from William Woods, I will be going to Seattle and trying to find a job so that I can live there and do my best. Thanks.